Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Lisa Booth, Juan Williams, Meghan McCain, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 9 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. President Trump back in the USA tonight after celebrating Bastille Day in France, as controversy continues to brew over his son's meeting with a Russian lawyer last year. There are new details today on that meeting. We've now learned there could have been at least 8 people in the room. 3 possible new players, a Russian-American lobbyist, a friend of the Russian pop star mentioned in an email, and possibly an interpreter. The White House again says the media is too focused on all things Russia instead of what's important.
We are not telling the American people all the good that's happening in this administration for a couple of reasons. First is because of the Russian obsession, as I call it, the Russian concussion, the Russian percussion. But secondly, and this doesn't get covered at all, it's a heck of a lot easier to sit around and scream Russia, Russia, Russia with no basis than to go learn the finer points of the new health care bill, than to really dig in and understand the simplicity and the fairness and the middle-class tax relief in the new tax reform plan that's being developed right behind me.
Also, more details tonight about who let the Russian lawyer into the country in the first place. So, Gutfeld, Russian Concussion, that was the band you were in high school.
Yes, yeah, we released a few songs, then we broke up.
Awesome.
A lot of drugs involved back then. This is like, it's like they call it the drip, drip, drip story.
Yeah.
But it's like a methadone dose for the media. It's like just as the story is about to wear off, it's the end of the week, you get another one. It's like, oh my God, there's another person, and he's got a big question mark for a face.
They need their fix.
Yeah, they need their fix. But I mean, it does expose the preferences of the media in the sense that they lose their minds over a dual citizen, a Russian guy who's at a meeting, but they never bother to ask why a woman with no visa was allowed in. So there are certain parts of the story that they find intriguing, but then there are other parts that go, nah, I don't think that's so good. I'll just save that for later.
Right.
And this
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, this will be going on for a long time. It's going to be like the weather. Every day we get up and we have Russian news.
You said that Trump is the weather.
Yeah, he is.
It's just all-consuming.
Yes.
Meghan, 8 people now in this meeting.
Yeah, and
8 people.
What's interesting is the translator had a contract through the State Department, so now this crosses partisan lines, and it's very messy. And we were talking about yesterday, Juan and I got in a fight that there are a lot more questions that need to be asked about the people in the room and why they had so many connections to the State Department, which again every Democrat seems to want to ignore. That being said, this is getting very messy, and as I said yesterday, I really think that the White House could do a better job of managing this crisis right now, and it is turning into something that we shouldn't be talking about. I would much rather be talking about health care and jobs and everything that I think Americans are actually interested in. But there are a lot of leftover questions that I think Democrats need to answer too. Number one, why was this woman in the country to begin with?
That's a great point that Meghan just made. Healthcare is rolling down the aisle, Juan, and everybody wants to talk about Russia, 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 but Russia doesn't affect anybody.
It affects Donald Trump's administration in big time.
But not people's health care.
Well, no, but I mean, they're having a debate on Capitol Hill. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, says he's still hoping to have a vote. It doesn't look like he has the votes, but we can discuss that. There's nobody stopping us. The point here, by the way, that was incredible spin from Kellyanne Conway. I thought that was epic. It was almost as good as Greg Gutfeld wearing the CNN head in our intro. And you know what?
I'm a human meme.
This is the kind of show we have. Nobody said a word.
And you and Jesse are wearing the same exact suit.
Well, you know what? We got the memo. We got the memo. Anyway, my point to you is
I gotta change.
Yeah. So my point to you is, oh, this is a witch hunt, the greatest witch hunt in history. Oh, this is a media frenzy. This is a nothing burger, no collusion. Oh, maybe some collusion. A collusion's not illegal, so what's the crime? What happened here? You know what? Most people would go to this meeting. Oh, you know what? Nothing came of the meeting. Oh, wait a second. Turns out this Russian woman brought with her documents charging the DNC with illegal fundraising. Oh, well, but it was just 2 pages, and she didn't have substantial. Do you ever think these guys don't have a way to keep a story straight?
Lisa, but who let this Russian lawyer into the country?
Oh, that's another one.
And Chairman Chuck Grassley of the Judiciary Committee is looking into that. He wrote a letter to both Secretary Kelly as well as Secretary Tillerson about that. But you know who wins with all this? Vladimir Putin. And he is probably riding shirtless on a horse off into the sunset, chugging vodka as America descends into chaos.
I'm jealous.
And you know who loses? Well, I imagine you probably do the same thing often, but particularly maybe this weekend. And you know who loses? It's the American people who voted for change, and now the administration is being hamstrung by this. And also another thing as well, does anyone see the irony in the fact that, you know, Don Jr. was seeking this meeting to try to find opposition research of Hillary Clinton? The Russians hacked the DNC emails in Podesta to try to damage Hillary Clinton, but she had already done a good enough job on her own. You look at the actual information that was out there that damaged her the most, and that was the biggest indictment of her and her character, was self-inflicted wounds. It was the setting up the private email server, right, the deleting tens of thousands of emails with BleachBit, the Clinton Foundation, and the quid pro quo. So literally everything that damaged her candidacy, outside of her just being a generally unlikable person, was all self-inflicted.
That's right, and it always boomerangs back on the Democrats, Gutfeld. We've seen the Susan Rice boomerang, we've seen the Comey memos boomerang, and now it looks like this is boomerang. Well, who let this person into the country?
Well, this is why, and we know what the boomerang will result in, a full accounting under oath of all of Podesta's meetings as well. If you're going to do this, all those meetings held with operatives, and the operatives that promised dirt on Trump, including this fake dossier from a Brit. Where did that come from? These are all important questions. And again, I go back to a very simple fact. Anybody would take this meeting if they promised you dirt. And Podesta and his little cutout firms, I would not be surprised. And by the way, the other thing that kills me is that there was always this suspicion that if Hillary won, the deplorables wouldn't accept it.
Yes.
They would not accept it. But who's not accepting an election? It's the Hillary people.
Isn't it funny that everything they said was going to happen actually happened with them? They said they weren't going to accept it, and now it's the Democrats trying to delegitimize President Trump because they cannot accept the fact that he beat Hillary Clinton.
Well, there's really extreme Democratic overreach today. A Democratic congressman went on TV and said that anyone who's had any connections with anyone from Russia is automatically talking to Putin. So if I talk to a German today, I guess I also had a conversation with Angela Merkel. Ooh. And the point is that you're taking it to the extreme when you throw around things like treason, which is a very, very serious accusation to throw at anyone. You're reaching so far that it delegitimizes something that really could remain and have questions. And I think Democrats get so hysterical. They're like a dog with a bone right now. And finally, they have a tiny kernel of a narrative that fits into their conspiracy theories, and that's why they're going so crazy.
You guys finally got a kernel, Juan, and you guys are overplaying your hands. Any second thoughts?
Well, I guess I must be Colonel Klink or something. You know, I know nothing. And nothing. Was that Sergeant?
That's Sergeant John Banner.
Yeah, but I can't remember his name.
You shouldn't
why do I
think
know
about yourself that way.
Yeah, anyway, but I think I'm listening, and I wanted to answer Dr. Gutfeld's questions because he said...
Doctor.
Yes, because he's a doctor.
I do practice
in
3 states.
Thank you.
Which one so we can avoid them?
Oh, hey.
State of inebriation, state of confusion.
Well, yes. In fact, we are in a state of distract, divert, and distance.
Enough about
by
the Democrats.
Republicans. Yeah, no. But you said, why is this woman allowed in the country? Because this is part of the argument, which is blame Obama, blame Lynch. That's why this woman, don't blame the person who took the meeting with someone advertised as bringing information from the Russian government. Blame Obama.
So if you guys say that the Russians interfered in the election and tilted it to Donald Trump, you were the ones that let the Trojan horse into the country to allow this big collusion to have your candidate lose. Is that your game?
I will take this game because you got a losing hand. The fact is the woman was a lawyer.
We won.
Oh, I can't even answer
For the record.
right ahead.
Go ahead, though. No. You let the woman in.
Who? I didn't let I'm telling you.
Obama let the woman in.
Here's the deal.
To sink Hillary.
I know.
And now it's our fault?
I know. It's your fault that your guy took a meeting with a spy.
Wait a second. You let the woman into the country to make Hillary lose.
Everybody talk at separate times.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa, go.
Because Juan doesn't have it.
Oh, get out. I have it. You wouldn't let me answer.
We've also seen so much self-righteous indignation from people that have no business being self-righteous. Like, I absolutely love the fact that Robbie Mook is out there talking about any of this.
Who's Robbie Mook?
Literally, the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton. He literally worked for the most soulless woman on this planet who would literally sell her daughter to be president if she should sell her only child to be president. I mean, that's how much she wanted. So I just think that there's like a little bit of irony here that these people are supposed to be the voices of authority on morality or ethical, what's ethical or not, given some of the people that they worked for.
Well, I don't know if anybody thinks that Hillary is the voice of morality. Gutfeld, any last words on this story?
Well, I think, and I think Juan would agree with me on this because Juan, you've been in journalism for a long time. What kills me is how the left. Okay, so when USSR was a world power, you had a lot of apologists among liberals saying that we were overplaying the Cold War, we were overplaying the communist threat. If we had listened to them, the USSR never would have broken up. If we listened to Ted Kennedy, the USSR would still be here, and we'd be dealing with a geopolitical threat that would dwarf others. Now we're dealing with a marginalized world power, which is Russia. Russia is like, I don't know, 1/8 the power that it used to be. I'm being conservative on this. And now they're a threat. So do you see the hypocrisy here?
Where were you guys in the 80s?
Where were you guys in the 80s? And now you're scared of them. Now you're scared of them.
Could have used you guys in the 80s.
Okay, let me just
You
say.
see that? My
you
point?
Remember where the Democrats were fighting against the Russians and the Cuban Missile Crisis and Sputnik?
Those would be conservatives now.
Oh, no, those were conservative
Kennedy was a
Democrats.
conservative back
But
then.
it doesn't matter because in modern times, you think it's a 1980s foreign policy and they called and they need it back, and no Democrat took Russia seriously at
In
any
the
point
80s?
for the last. No, it's the famous remark Obama said to Mitt Romney during the debate.
okay.
Come on, you know what that is.
No, I do, but
But I'm just saying, Obama did. The reason why Putin and Russia has any strength whatsoever is because Democrats completely ignored his expansion into the Baltic states and everything globally for the past 8 years. So the fact that you're crying wolf now because it's politically expedient, give me a break.
But I think it's
point.
politically expedient.
It's a great point, Juan.
It's
That's the last
politically
word.
Okay,
expedient for you.
but I think that at the moment, you guys are running away from the news of the day. And
We're doing it in the lead of the show.
No, what you're doing is saying it didn't matter.
I'm
But
not
I am
running away
struck
from
by the fact
anything.
that Charles Grassley, a Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said the man that was identified as in the meeting today was a self-acknowledged Russian spy.
He's also an American citizen.
He's
and
also
dual
a spy, Greg.
Aren't all Russian spies, according to you?
No.
No, you just assume everybody's a spy.
Is that right?
Yes.
But when you had the box on your head, I was...
Don't body slam it, Juan. Violence on the set. Far left MSNBC host Joy Reid is at it again, making some wild generalizations about the Republican Party. What she's saying now, next.
It's like nothing is off the table for MSNBC host Joy Reid when it comes to slamming the Republican Party. She caused an uproar when she went after Congressman Steve Scalise while he was hospitalized after the assassination attempt.
It's a delicate thing because, you know, obviously everybody is wishing the congressman well and hoping that he recovers. But Steve Scalise has a history that we've all been forced to sort of ignore on race.
Now she's at it again, lashing out the entire GOP this time.
Donald Trump didn't invent this. He didn't invent this Republican Party. He just saw the trends and took advantage of it. This is a Republican Party that's been built on resentment and a sense of victimhood, a sense of persecution, almost a persecution complex for more than 40 years, almost 50 years, going back to the dawn of the Civil Rights Movement when they felt persecuted by the world.
So, Megan, you know the GOP, and I'm going to ask, do you think that this is a rational argument to say, oh, the GOP says, oh, you know, we don't like Hollywood, we can't stand the college elites and the professors, people in the mainstream media are biased against this? Is that a legitimate argument as we hear it from Joy Reid?
No, that woman knows nothing about GOP politics. I would like to know the last time she left New York City and actually talked to a Republican voter in their home state, number one. Number two, the entire fuel that fuels the Democratic Party is victimhood right now, number one. So it's hilarious that she would even point that at Republicans. Across the country right now at Democratic dinners, they're removing Presidents Andrew Jackson from all meetings, Andrew Jackson and Jefferson, because they think that they are racist and they don't want them in their dinners anymore. Today, a bunch of
I didn't
congressmen
understand.
women.
What do you mean?
They're removing them from the platform because they don't want Andrew Jackson and Jefferson around.
the annual dinners, you mean.
Annual
Yeah,
dinners.
yeah,
Yes.
got it.
And going forward today, a bunch of Democratic congresswomen paraded around sleeveless because they wanted to show that the sexist regime, which by the way happened under Nancy Pelosi of the dress code, in Congress, ended up being removed today. So I just think the entire Democratic platform is about victimhood, and the idea that she knows anything about Republican politics is hilarious.
What would you say, Lisa?
Well, I just think how gross and distasteful were her comments about Steve Scalise. And then also, to Megan's point, it's the Democratic Party that plays this victim card constantly. I mean, what did Jennifer Palmieri do after the election? She stood at the Harvard University event with Kellyanne Conway, and she proceeded to blame sexism, racism, on the reason that President Trump won. Yeah. I mean, this is the card, the Democratic card that they continuously play, if I could talk, is the victim card. I mean, that's constantly the only card that they're playing.
Well, just for a second, let's say, imagine that she had some basis for saying
but she doesn't.
The Republican Party celebrates their grievance. Is that fair?
No, in what context? How do they do that? That's
Well, I
the
just
point.
said to you, Hollywood's against us, say the Republicans. The academics in the colleges are against us. Black Lives Matter, against us.
I'm sorry,
No,
but
but it's
the left
constantly-
is in love with the idea of being victims. Their entire platform is on the onus that you're a victim in one context or another. So the idea that Republicans are doing that is not only ironic, but wildly inaccurate on the platform of the Republican Party. And she may not like why President Trump won because he actually talked to voters in the middle of the country and listened to their problems and talked about issues like coal and jobs and ISIS instead of things like trans rights that obviously don't have the same breadth of effect on voters that talking about real issues does. But it is none of her concern. What she needs to be concerned about is talking to the voters that they lost. And when you're in this bubble at MSNBC judging conservatives in the middle of the country, you're sure as hell not going to win them back over.
So, Jesse, part of her argument, again, trying to really understand what she's saying is, Donald Trump right now is being enabled by people like Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, and others in the Congress. They won't say a word against him. And that Donald Trump is so powerful, he's made the GOP accept anything, that nothing he does is objectionable to any Republican at the moment.
I mean, I think the Republican Party feels unfairly persecuted by Hollywood,
Right.
by the media, by the Democratic Party, by the IRS.
Yeah, keep going.
And, oh, I mean, I could keep going all day.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a justifiable emotion. At the same time, I happen to agree with my colleagues here that the Democratic Party is actually the party of victimhood. The Democratic Party has been fertilized by victimization for many, many years. If you think about it, the identity politics, as Greg likes to talk about, it's all about victimhood. You have blacks are the victims of white oppression. Gays are the victims of Christians. Women are the victims of men. Muslims are the victims of our government. Big government liberalism is predicated on defending the victims of capitalism. Big banks, big oil, big pharma prey on victims. And since socially, liberals set up a dynamic where they have to swoop in and save these victims from these people. So the poor are the victims of the rich. Criminals are the victims of police, and then illegal immigrants are the victims of ICE. So it's all about predator versus prey, and then you need big government to come in and then save these people and make them dependent. So they need them for votes.
It's a political, exactly. It's a political strategy.
The last person I saved to go to on our panel this Friday night is Mr. I Hate These People, Greg Gutfeld.
I love these people.
Why?
I'm always troubled by it's so interesting that everybody named Joy is always bitter and angry. I only know two people named Joy. It's Joy Behar and Joy, what's your last name? Joy Reid. They're just angry people. Look, conservatives or Republicans, they didn't create safe spaces on campuses.
Yeah.
They didn't define the term microaggression. They didn't create speech codes. These are all coming from the progressive, or what you could call now as the regressive left. Right now, identity politics is falling apart because it's finally being exposed. When you look at Evergreen College, that scandal. So I think what's happening is she's projecting her own sins as a defense because she might feel that her belief system is crumbling. Right now in Canada, they passed a law that you can go to prison if you use the wrong pronoun. This is the first time you can go to jail if you don't use a word, if you don't use the right word. They're mandating language. This is scary stuff. This is born from the oppressor versus oppressed ideology, the victimhood ideology is that your words can actually hurt. So this is actually a dangerous thing. And I think that because people are waking up to it, she feels threatened, and that's why she's projecting.
Greg, just indulge me for a second. Don't you think it's true when you scream, I hate these people, that lots of people, Republicans, conservatives say, thank God, because I hate these people too. And this is a Republican perspective. You hear it on talk radio all the time. I can't believe these academic professors. They're so left-wing. I hate these Black Lives Matter people.
If you look at the I've never done I hate these people on Black Lives Matter. I've never done that. I do it about people texting when they're crossing the street. I hate these people is based on specific behaviors that I find annoying in supermarkets.
What about the Hollywood
which are
types?
universally annoying despite
it
what color your skin is, what sex you are.
My hate transcends any kind of identity or pigment or ethnicity or religion. I hate everybody equally.
Equal opportunity hater.
But it is the Democratic Party that is constantly seeing people through the lens, as you had mentioned, through black, white, whatever your sex is. And Hillary Clinton was the one that ran a campaign on there's a special place in hell for women that don't vote for her. So please spare me Joy Reid. Go be joyful. Maybe change your attitude.
All right. Ahead is the top Democrat in the House changing her position on the impeachment calls coming from her own party. We're going to hear from Nancy Pelosi next.
Democrats love to talk about ousting President Trump from office. This week, one congressman took action. Brad Sherman from California filed the first articles of impeachment. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi typically cautions her party against impeachment talk, but now she seems open to the idea.
There is evidence, clear evidence, that we need to know more, and we should not close that path. I've always been reluctant because I think impeachment is something that really has an impact on the country. So when the facts are clear, the law is certainly clear. When the facts are clear, then this Congress will make a decision in that regard.
And other prominent Democrats like Jesse Jackson are still trying to invalidate the election.
Let them fool you. We worked last year. We won the election. It was stolen.
Entertaining them.
Okay, stop talking to people off set. We have a show to do. Lisa, 2018 midterms are going to be the impeachment election. Democrats were talking about impeachment on election night when Trump got elected. I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's a losing message for Democrats. I think if you see anything from the special elections like Jon Ossoff, it doesn't work. It doesn't seem to resonate with voters. Why hit yourself to a message that clearly isn't resonating?
Well, and they also have been fundraising. And in the Georgia 6 special election, Jon Ossoff didn't mention President Trump once in paid advertising. There was a reason for that, because he wasn't as politically poisonous as Democrats thought they were in that congressional district. But look, they've been trying to undermine the president, as you mentioned, from day one. They've blamed everything under the sun for the reason why Hillary Clinton lost. Racism, sexism, as we hit on during the previous segment. They've also tried to hijack this Russian investigation as well to try to undermine the president and hurt him politically. They can't come to terms with the fact that President Trump, of the nearly 700 counties that twice went to President Obama, 1/3 flipped for Trump. Also, you look at he won 194 of the 207 counties that either went for Obama in 2008 or 2012. This is serious stuff. President Trump was able to resonate with voters in a way that Hillary Clinton wasn't able to do. And so I think that they're overreaching and they're hurting themselves to not wake up to that fact.
But Juan, I always wonder if you're someone like a Democrat like yourself. Nancy Pelosi still has her iron grip, like on the Iron Throne, on power, and she's not letting people like Tim Ryan, who could actually resonate with the middle of the country and start winning over some of the Trump voters, because it's all about her. It doesn't matter that it's about the party. Doesn't that frustrate you?
No, I mean, it's part of the process. By the way, for everyone, Tim Ryan's a congressman from Ohio who challenged Pelosi for her minority leadership of the House, and he lost. And I think he lost, Megan, and I think you might appreciate this, because Pelosi has a record as a great fundraiser. And guess what? Going back to the passage, and I know it's unpopular but among Republicans, but passage of things like the Affordable Care Act, Pelosi was a leader among Democrats, and she remains, as you said, you could say iron grip. I appreciate that.
Something to be proud of.
But I want to say...
It doesn't matter how much money you dump into elections, like it shows with Ossoff.
Money doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters when you don't have the right message. It was the most expensive congressional election in history.
Or look at President Trump as well.
I think that was a heavily Republican district. But my point this Friday night, because everybody's been talking about drinking, is that you.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself, Juan.
Here is a recent poll. 73% of Democrats would give up alcohol for the rest of their lives if Donald Trump were impeached tomorrow.
Liberals can't hold their alcohol anyway. I know. I've drank with plenty of them. They can't hold their alcohol. That's a dumb poll. Going forward, what do you think of all the impeachment?
That actually does say a lot about how obsessed and
Yes.
compulsive they are about this idea. They're still living in the past. They're relitigating the past because they feel right now that they don't have a future. But it's not a vision. It's a tantrum. I don't want to help them, but I am going to help them. They should, instead of spurning, they should be learning from Donald Trump. What were the three things that that he nailed the Democrats for? There was a perception of being anti-law and order, anti-security. So the liberals are always soft on that stuff. The embracing of identity politics, he said, no, let's be Americans, let's forget about divisiveness. The third thing is he really did embrace freedom of speech by basically saying whatever he wanted. Meanwhile, the albatross around the liberals' neck is the speech codes and what's going on campus. So a thoughtful Democrat with a vision who could win has to embrace law and order, has to reject speech codes, and also has to reject identity politics. And they could win. If they don't do that, they're screwed.
It's not Elizabeth Warren.
God,
No,
I hope
it's not.
every Democrat watching did not pay any attention to what Greg Gutfeld just said, because that was right on. I don't think the Democrats can accept the will of the people, so they're trying to overturn the will of the people. Just listen to what they did since the election. The election was hacked. The election was stolen. They played games with the popular vote. You know, he didn't get the popular vote. John Lewis said Trump was not a legitimate president. Congressional Black Caucus. He's not my president was a hashtag. They boycotted the inauguration.
That's true.
They floated impeachment. Now they're floating this idea that they can use the 25th Amendment to remove him from office because he's mentally unfit. They've accused him of treason, and now they're showering with leaks so they undermine him. Now, I think if the Democrats had gotten either the House or the Senate, they could have fought President Trump within the system. But now they have nothing. So they have to rely on these things. But if they get rid of Trump, you know who they have? Pence. Do they really want Mike Pence? I don't think so.
But you don't think Trump's done anything to hurt himself, huh?
I'm not going to argue with that, but I also think he's done a lot to help himself.
All right, we have to move on, unfortunately, but I could talk about this all night. But I do love this next story. Ahead, musician Kid Rock says he's running for Senate, and Senator Elizabeth Warren is flipping out. We'll tell you about it next.
You guys missed Megan singing. Is Kid Rock kidding, or is he really considering launching a Senate bid? The singer promised a major announcement soon on Twitter after unveiling the website kidrockforsenate.com. The Michigan native says it's not a hoax, but some are questioning as it coincides with the release of 2 new music videos and a tour. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren isn't dismissing the possibility, warning supporters via email, maybe this is all a joke, but we all thought Donald Trump was a joke when he rode down the escalator at Trump Tower and announced his campaign, too. So, Greg, is this a joke, or do you think we're going to see Kid Rock for Senate?
I have no idea, but Elizabeth Warren is right. She's actually, I've never said that before in my life. And I would call this the Trump effect. When people think, if he can do it, so can I. It's a healthy sentiment. We need more everyman types. And also, you know what's really good for? It's good for people who have a past, because it's like a lot of people don't run because they go.
Greg, you have a shot.
I do it. It's like, look, I've known him for a while, back in my days at Stuff Magazine, and it's like I think about. No, I don't. Was that a name drop? A little bit. I knew Bob going way back. That's his real name, Bob. Anyway, I hope he does, because he's an everyman, interesting guy. He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
Megan, what do you think? So he hasn't filled any paperwork yet, but he's saying that he's got 15 days to file. What do you think?
I don't know. I think tax cuts, guns, and strippers sounds like a pretty all-American platform to me.
Hear, hear.
Are you envisioning the bumper sticker?
Even Juan can get excited about
I will say two things.
I was dumbstruck.
This is a very, I ain't got no problem with that, but this is a very politically active man, number one. He endorsed Mitt Romney. He was on the campaign trail, I believe, with Mitt Romney, came out hard. I think he was a big Trump supporter, as far as I know. Honestly, we need more blue-collar, real Americans in the Senate, so if he wants to run and get in there, God love him.
Jesse, he says that he wants to be the voice for tax-paying, hardworking Americans and letting politicians like Stabenow know that we, the people, are sick and tired of their blank, which I'm not going to say.
If Donald Trump can be president, I think Kid Rock can be senator. And if he wasn't a threat, then Elizabeth Warren wouldn't try to raise money off of him. I think he has a unique situation, because if he can keep his act together and kind of maintain a little bit of the seriousness on policy, then if he wins the nomination for the Republican Party, which I think he will based off of name recognition and money and excitement and free media, then when he gets into the general against a Democrat, he peels off blacks. He peels off young voters. He peels off blue-collar Democrats. There's a big threat that I think the Democrats are underestimating here, and I think he gets all the newspaper endorsements because all these editors want to have Kid Rock headlines.
Well, and he
better
is
get
going to
Uncle
have
Cracker to run with him.
Yeah, who's this running
You don't have a running mate for
you don't
Senate.
have
Rock Cracker?
Well,
No, Uncle
okay.
Cracker. Come on.
I'm a child of the 90s.
That looks good on a bumper sticker.
He would have high name recognition. Juan, is this going to keep you up at night tonight? Is it going to be a sleepless night for Juan Williams?
No, but
It's not going to be that keeps Juan out.
yeah, really. But I must say,
I don't know what that means.
I must say, I have always thought that he was someone who was engaged with Detroit, gave money back to Detroit,
Yeah.
says he's extremely rich, says that he owes so much to Menard. He said black people taught him all about the blues and rock and roll, were kind to him. He's an interesting guy, but I got to wonder, is this just hype for his latest release?
You sound pretty excited about this.
No, I'm not
Juan.
excited. I'll tell you why I'm not excited.
Juan's on the rock train.
Because guess what? I mean, you think back to people, not only Donald Trump, but on the left, Al Franken. You think about people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Celebrity, it's almost like we're you know,
Jesse Ventura.
anybody who's a celebrity now is suddenly trusted to run the country.
Yes.
Crazy.
Matter of time.
I mean, it's got to get better than who we have running it right now. I mean, we can't even get
Wait a minute.
healthcare passed.
Wait.
Somebody's
Yeah, and I'm
gotta run
related
for
to
mayor.
someone in there.
That's
but
the
I'm
Talking
mayor
about
of New
Mitch
York.
McConnell.
Oh, I thought you was talking
Mitch
about Trump for a second.
No, he's
No,
talking about
I'm talking about Mitch McConnell.
Mayor of New York. That's what we got to
Al
concentrate on.
Franken is way more of a joke than Kid Rock all day,
Billy
every day.
Guilfoyle for mayor. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there's been a series of announcements tonight.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yeah, for New York,
All
she'll
right.
win.
All right. Well, stay right there because Facebook Friday is coming up next.
Uh-oh.